We should be wearing ugly Christmas sweaters for this.
You have two
I
in there.
have two in the office, which no one's worn yet. Welcome to the Go Headquarters podcast this week. Today, joining me is Shannon Myers, one of our coaches here at Go Headquarters. Her and I go way back from, 10 years ago, coaching at Anastasia Athletic Club all those years ago. We have similar background, so Shannon, tell us a little bit about what your fitness experience is and background and all that good stuff.
Well, I attended the University of Florida, where I got my degree in exercise and sports science. I believe the same degree, right?
Yep.
Different times, though. He's a little younger.
It's okay. We won't discuss age here.
Anyway, I went on to work at Gainesville Health and Fitness Center, and I worked there for, about 10 years before I came over to St. Augustine. And that's where I got most of my personal training experience, was at Gainesville Health and Fitness.
All right, right on. And then, so one of our topics today is going to be, our main topic today is going to be physical therapy and fitness. While Shannon was over in Gainesville with Gainesville Health and Fitness Center, they had what's called a step-down program, which is pretty unique, and I think is really important to have this sort of a system in place somehow, some way, shape, or form in every town. Physical therapy, I think locations need a little bit more of this, and I don't see it much here in St. Augustine, unfortunately. So tell us a little bit about how a step-down program works and how, an athlete or a client or something could take advantage of that.
Well, in Gainesville, one of the great advantages that we had was Request Physical Therapy. We were kind of in partnership with them. So we actually had one physical therapy center inside of our main center, and another one was, in the same complex. So we developed this system with, we had a relationship between the physical therapists and the trainers, where once, a patient has gone through and completed, their physical therapy, then they then come to the trainers at Gainesville Health, and then we help them to move on from there. So they're not just being released to go home and, you're done with physical therapy, and then now what? So then we brought them into the gym, and then you're in a very nice controlled environment, and you can continue on with strengthening and making sure that you don't end up back in physical therapy. So it's a great opportunity for both, because you're not just released on your own to then figure out what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way physical therapy typically works, right? Someone is either hurt, or maybe they go in for some type of operation, and they're going to be referred over to a physical therapist, and they're going to take over and do whatever they need to do modality-wise to get that injury back up to speed. But then eventually the money runs out, right? The insurance is only going to pay for maybe so many sessions based on what the therapist thought that they would need. So maybe you're going for 3 weeks, 2 days a week, or whatever. There's a million examples we could cite here. But then once the money runs out, it's kind of like, okay, we went through the standard protocol according to the textbook. You're clean, you're clear, see you later. And then there's nowhere to go. At best, you maybe had a handout from the therapist that says, okay, here's your homework assignments, and you're on your own for, performing those and adhering to that plan at all, or doing it correctly, whatever. But that's it. So even if you stuck with that homework, like on what timeline do you continue to perform that,
Well, and that's a great thing that you're talking about there. And that's exactly what they do. You're sent home, and this is what you're supposed to do at home. And for example, I have a client that has had chronic, shoulder problems, and she's gone to physical therapy, and she gets her sheet, and she's supposed to do these exercises at home. Well, it's kind of hit or miss. So with her coming in here, we're strengthening all, surrounding muscles as well to make her stronger as a whole. But we will also, when she's not adhering to her exercises at home, we can do them here to ensure that she's going to continue to strengthen those muscles. And because typically when you get home, and it may only take 5 minutes to do the exercises, but people are like, oh, I don't have time, or they forget, and then, or they might do it for the first week, and then they go, oh, it feels better. As soon as it feels better is typically when they stop. But just because it's starts feeling better doesn't mean you shouldn't do these exercises anymore. That means, you know, what you're doing is working and you should continue it.
Yeah, so that brings up a great topic of proactive versus being reactive. Most people that we experience, right, are reactive in nature to everything. They gain a few pounds, and so they react by, hey, I need to go on a diet and exercise, instead of being proactive and eating healthy all the time and exercising anyway, because that's clearly the better, healthier, better way of feeling good to achieve the same goal. Same with injuries. I mean, it echoes exactly what you just said. They'll do their physical therapy, or they'll stay on icing and heating or whatever, you know, the prescription is, and then when it feels good, they're like, oh, I'm cured and I'm done and it's over, and then they, you know, chronic pain sets back in or whatever it is, or they retweak it doing a weird move that they probably shouldn't have been doing. They should have still been on restriction of some kind. And yeah, so we're gonna, as people are released from physical therapy, what we want to do here is we're going to take whatever your homework assignment is, we're going to take your injury history, and we're going to build on that a little bit. We're going to start building on accessory muscle groups. So let's say you have a rotator cuff injury of some kind. Maybe you had it repaired, maybe you didn't, maybe it wasn't even operated on, but physical therapy is still important here. So we're going to do rotator cuff exercises, internal, external rotation, etc. But we're also going to start doing some other things, you know, for the pecs, for the deltoids, for the lats, and things like that, to keep building that support structure and keep you a little more functional. Which is
extremely important. And that kind of going backwards, the strength of those muscles, you know, are so important. And you may not have to have surgery. You may we'll take somebody that's had an injury, not chronic pain. So I can use a client, for example, that I've had for years and has done, I mean, works hard, very strong, in here 3 days a week, and, you know, she's 60-something years old, but you would never know it. I mean, very active, always takes active vacations, everything else. Had a fall, fell down her stairs, and, you know, knees swollen, everything. She still comes in. You know, right now she's dealing with doctors and stuff, but never gives up. Like, and comes in, she's like, I know that if I don't do this, you know, if I hadn't been doing this, it would be so much worse because everything else is strong. And that happened to be her only injury. She was very, you know, fortunate in that, but she attributes a lot of that to the strength of everything and her fitness level now. So she is being, you know, proactive in her health and to help, you know, with the preventative. Obviously, injuries happen, falls happen, but this is, you know, she's still coming in. We're working around the injury, which is important to know. As trainers, you know, you come in, and just because your knee hurts or your shoulder hurts doesn't mean call and cancel. Doesn't mean, you know, don't walk through that front door. We can work around anything. We can modify exercises, and it's really important. You know, you hear, it used to be back in the day, oh, if your back hurts, stay in bed, right?
Right.
So it's always that, which is probably one of the worst things you can do, is lay in bed.
Yeah.
And you're encouraging atrophy and everything else. So you come in, we strengthen those muscles, and, you know, keep you staying active and staying healthy no matter what your age is.
Right. Yeah, that's good. So she kind of is almost touching on, with the fall incident anyway, yeah. We're talking about I would say like almost a pre-form of therapy in a sense to give you a better fighting chance. So really fit people are generally harder to damage, right? We're a lot more resilient. We can take more of a beating. We're not going to be as prone to injuries such as a fall, for sure. You're going to have better reaction time, catching yourself, and whatever else. You'll bounce back quicker if you do get injured.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say the same type of advice so we don't know that someone's going to have a fall, right? But maybe we know someone's going to go in for a knee replacement, right? We're creeping up there in age, got to get that knee replaced finally. The doctor says the first one's just worn out, too many miles on it. And so what we're going to do for that person that's going in for a knee replacement, we're going to kind of grind out some pain and make sure that we strengthen the quads and hamstrings as much as humanly possible up until their surgery date. That's going to help them with pain management immediately after the surgery. The physical therapy is not going to be as painful or grueling, especially mentally too.
Absolutely.
Like if you just submit to knee pain and say, I've got a surgery scheduled, I don't want to mess with it for the next 3 or 6 weeks, like physical therapy is going to be that much harder. Coming back is going to be extended that much longer. So doing again, proactive work ahead of time is really important. Yeah, falls are obviously
right, but being strong going into something, whether it's a fall, an unexpected fall, obviously, or going into a surgery, the recovery thereafter is like, just a lot faster and easier, a lot easier on, on yourself.
Yeah. What would you advise if, okay, so someone goes, let's just say there's an injury, they have it operated on, they go through physical therapy. What's really important to do at this point? So they're released from physical therapy, they have homework assignments, whether they're working with let's say they're not working with a trainer, right? Let's just say they're an independent person on their own. They just saw their therapist for the last time and they have this one sheet of paper with 3 exercises on it to do. What do? What's your advice to that person?
Well, number one, actually do what's on the page that's given. I mean, that's the easiest thing to say. But, go home, do it as prescribed. If they are prescribing that you do it 3 times a week, do it 3 times a week. The biggest thing, though, is if you have any question or confusion with the exercises, ask someone. Don't do an exercise that you're uncomfortable doing or that you don't know how to do on your own, because then you're going to have a setback there and you have more potential, obviously, of injuring yourself. So whether it's calling your therapist again or calling a trainer, but as trainers come in here, you can bring your sheet and hand us your sheet and say, I have no clue, truly, I sat there in therapy and they were awesome and I feel better, but I don't really know how to do this, help me. And, we can help you. But at the very least, call your therapist back and you're like, okay, I don't understand this. But adherence is huge because you don't want to, go backwards. Yeah. Whether it's chronic pain or an injury or whatever, just because you feel better, and I know I've said that already, but it doesn't mean that you don't need to continue. Yeah. So the biggest thing is, if you have a question, ask it. Don't assume that somebody's going to be put out. Your therapist would rather you call. We'd rather you come in here and say, I have no clue what I'm doing, and we would be glad to help you. Right. With all of this. And
we see the same kind of stuff in not in physical therapy, but just in fitness. Right. Accountability to adhere or comply to any sort of a program. We give people homework assignments all the time. Hey, stretch your hamstrings or do whatever low back treatment every single day, and we'll see them 2 or 3 days later and they haven't done a single thing. And so therefore the progress is not being made if they don't have that adherence to the plan. That goes with anything, but especially an injury when you're trying to come back up to a good spot of health and fitness. Anything else you can think of you want to go over here with physical therapy? And
that's, I think we've basically covered everything. I just, the main thing is, don't stop after you've gone to physical therapy, whether it's at home, whether it's with a trainer, continue it on and, to that healthy and making those muscles, healthy and everything else.
Yeah. I would also go a step further in terms of, which is something we do as coaches every day, in goal setting. I think when people go through physical therapy, there's never really a clear goal. Maybe the therapist is talking about a functional range of motion in terms of how many degrees they can move, but to the average person, that means nothing to them. They want to know, like, can I reach over my head to get the glass out of the cabinet for my glass of wine, that kind of thing.
That's a great point. Can I throw a ball? You might like to play softball, baseball, whatever, and your shoulder's out, and so that that motion of throwing the ball, maybe something you just can't do now, that is your goal, to be able to throw a ball pain-free.
Yeah, and that's going to take a lot more work than just the physical therapy. You're going to need, especially if you've been dealing with atrophy and if you've had chronic pain leading into the injury and you've had some time off, so you've got all that time of atrophy, plus the lack of range of motion and stuff during your time of pain. So we're pretty far set back, we're pretty far removed from maybe being able to throw that ball, and physical therapy just, I think, scratches the surface. I mean, super important to start things off, but there's got to be that continuing education in fitness, and then of course we're going to probably discover 1,000 other things that are that are probably wrong with your mechanics in your body and things you didn't even know that were holding you back, and we're going to address that stuff too, hopefully.
Right, weaker areas that, you know, need to be targeted a little bit more.
Yeah. So definitely our consensus here is that post-physical therapy, or if you're just having chronic pain, you know, get with someone that knows what they're doing. It can be your physical therapist. It can be a really highly qualified personal trainer like us here at Go Headquarters. We're going to take your history. We're going to meet you where you are that day. We're trying to give you the right prescription to get you where you want to go. Out of pain, functional lifestyle, and that's about it. So, all right.
All right.
Shannon, thanks for joining us here today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.